So let's talk about why your watermelons aren't sweet. The first couple of years that I grew watermelon, I was really disappointed because I had always heard that watermelons that you grew in your garden were sweeter than what you got at the grocery store. But the first one I brought in, it was nice and red, just didn't have any flavor. So I learned since then that I was thinking because it was called watermelon, that meant that it needed a lot of water. But that is opposite of the truth. The truth is that your watermelon is a desert plant. And so it actually doesn't need as much water as you think it does. When you first plant it, you do need to water it good. Once your fruit starts to get maybe about softball size, you need to cut back on how much you're watering your plants. I water mine once a week really well. So maybe about an inch, inch and a half of water once a week. Then I don't give it water again until another week, or in the heat when we have 90-degree weather like what we're having right now, then I will water it sometimes in between, but I wait for the vines to actually start wilting and not recovering at the end of the day. So if they wilt during the heat of the day, but they perk back up in the evening or perk back up in the morning, they're fine. If they're wilting and they're not perking back up, then you need to go ahead and water. And overwatering is not just going to make your watermelon not as sweet. You're going to run the risk of splitting your watermelon open. So if you water too much, then your watermelon sometimes will rot or even split on the vine. So 2 weeks before your fruit is ready to harvest, you need to stop watering altogether. This will allow your fruit to get really sweet. If you water it, you're just diluting the sugar that's in the fruit. And so that is the first reason why your watermelons are sweet. The second reason is you're picking it too early. So let me show you. Let's come take a look. So let's look right in here. So this is the stem of your watermelon. And this right here is, some people call it a curly Q and some people call it a feeler. But this is if you look right here, it's one of these. It's this little vine that reaches out and it looks for stuff to hold on to. So the one that's closest to the stem of your plant has to be completely dry. As you can see, it's starting to dry on the tip, but it has not dried completely yet. So when it's completely dry all the way down here, and then I always also like to look at the next one that's closest to it, which you can see it's already dry. So this one is dry, and when this one has dried up, and those both are dry, that is when the watermelon is ready to go. A few more tips before we go. When you're growing watermelon, if you're growing in a traditional garden, you always want to make a mound for your watermelon. That way that it drains properly. And you want to plant it away from other plants that need heavy watering so that you're not accidentally watering the watermelon too much. Now, if you're doing a raised bed garden, like this one right here, a lot of people tell you that you can't grow watermelon in a raised bed, and this is sort of true and it's sort of not. So this is actually, the plant itself is in the raised bed. It's right along here on the edge. So I planted my plants on the edge of the bed. I don't have to mound them when they're in the bed because the bed has good drainage. So I actually just plant them normally like I would any other plant, just at the edge. And the vines I tease out of the bed, because I have found in my experience that if the fruit is in the bed, then it tends to rot. If it's out of the bed, then it does fine. So I have this space here that is just for my watermelon vines to be able to grow out. And what I did is, when I first planted them, I laid down some weed barrier. On top of the weed barrier, I layered leaves and pine needles. Now I could have just left the weed barrier, but in the past when I've tried just weed barrier by itself, it tends to burn the plants. And so the leaves help protect the plants from the weed barrier and the leaves in combination smother the weeds. And so you don't have to fight the weeds growing up into your plants and not being able to see where your fruit is. So if you're growing it in a bed, you just have to train the vines outward. And what you plant in the bed with the the watermelon needs to be something that also doesn't require a lot of water. And this back here is sweet potatoes. So the bed is full of sweet potatoes and the watermelon, they both have about the same requirements for water. And so this makes it easier to water both of them. And the other advantage of having my sweet potato right here is rabbits love watermelon vines. They don't eat the watermelons in my experience, they eat the vines, but it kills the watermelon because they disconnect the vine right before where your fruit is. But they love sweet potato more. So they will munch on the sweet potato and leave the watermelon alone. So this is a defense as well as a crop. So I hope you have a fantastic harvest this year. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you.